Getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows. Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Metro Auto Rebuild Weekend Warriors League. This is round number 10 of the season, coming to you today from Jerez. My name is Ron Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Adam Thompson. Guido Marzucchi is our producer for today's broadcast. Well, Adam, we're here at a track that you have just bought over the past few moments here at Jerez, a track that, it goes without saying, doesn't get a lot of use on iRacing, which I think is a bit of a shame, yet also not at the same time. I don't know. I've always had mixed feelings about this track. I just can't really make heads or tails of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, big shout out to our producer, Guido Marzucchi, for running the cameras this afternoon. But yeah, I mean, Ron, you said it here before we started the broadcast. You mentioned that Ayrton Senna's chicane was an abomination to the name. And I don't know why, Ron, so I would like you to expound on that. As I watch these drivers drive around here, it looks tough. It looks easy if you're looking at the track map, but it's not looking so easy as these drivers are trying to get around it, all 30 of them right now.
Yeah, I know this track is very tricky. All 15 turns around it, as Guido said a little bit before we went live himself. This track, you can tell that it is designed for motorcycles. Doesn't get a lot of love in terms of circuit driving. Used to host Formula One many moons ago, and that chicane that I mentioned was actually added in to slow the cars down after Senna died. So that's already off to a bad start. The fact they named the chicane after they named the chicane after the man whose death brought it there in the first place, which is
I did not know that.
Odd. So that chicane, we'll get an opportunity to ride on board with the driver here in the not too far off future, heading off through there. But that chicane is about as clunky as falling down a flight of stairs in a wheelchair. It's just so unbelievably clunky as you head your way off through there that you get a sense of whiplash whenever you head through there. But that's neither here nor there. For now, though, let's take a look at the championship point standings as we head off into this penultimate round of the season. Only 11 rounds from this season, and here, of course, being round number 10, Nathaniel Schramm sits atop of the poll right now in Spec 1. 748 points is his tally, but 100 over Jason Green. Things have really come up well for Nathaniel Schramm as of recent. Looks like he's on track for a championship here in this season. Kane Halliburton, things have gone a little bit downhill for him. Was at the top, then once we factored in drop rounds and all that stuff, he's kind of fallen off with Joshua Justice and Dirk Braun, who's put in some very impressive results in Spec 1 after his championship in Spec 2 last season, completing her top 5 in that class there. Now we'll take a look at Spec 2, where Alexander Gorson is atop currently. 567 points is his present tally. Matt Thompson right behind in second at 536. Dmitry Lukhanov rounds out your top 3. The top 3 in this class actually rather close to one another. Yeah. Probably one of the closest championship battles that we have from this series.
And I need to jump in real quick. I've been following Dmitry Lukhanov for the past few weeks since I've been back in the booth here at SMB, and that man is doing nothing but getting faster. So keep an eye on him for these next couple races. I have a feeling that there might be a change in the points up here if Dmitry keeps it up, if he has a good run today.
Yes, I think Lukhanov, he's really shown in some impressive results. He's pretty much the presumptive champion over in the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors side of things in Spec 2. And here in the Spec Racer 4, it's putting in some good results here. Paul Jackson and Daniel Wood complete your top 5 in that always competitive Spec 2 category. Now we take a look at Masters, where it's Jörg Monty holding on to a very comfortable margin. We weren't really expecting Jörg to really contend for championships this season, but he's gone back into janitor form after dropping out of the Formula Ford race a little bit earlier on today at Lebanon with some connection problems. He probably has told his internet service provider 18 different ways in which they should probably jump off a cliff. He's currently holding on to that top spot currently. Chris Thorpe is in second. Brad Cathcart, Antonio Reese, and Kirk Nunes complete your top 5. So that's how it looks in your standings in the Masters category, and I hear Adam giggling.
Tam Stubby in the chat says, guess the clunky part of falling down the stairs of the wheelchair is attempting it to begin with. Oh, man. Okay, Tam, you win comment of the day so far. But, yeah, why don't we go on board here with somebody, Ron?
Yeah, let's do an onboard lap. We follow Mr. Joshua. So, okay, there's been some context surrounding this and a little bit of beef. Our colleague here on Slow Motion Broadcasting has mispronounced Mr. Guido Marzucchi's name for many, many moons. I've been told that I should do this. However, I like one thing more than retribution, and that is job security. So, Adam, I'll pass it off to you. Just say his name. I'll handle the rest of the lap.
All right, so it's Chihuahua. Wilkai is going to be going into turn 1 at the moment, Ron.
Yeah, in turn 1 here, Expo 92 is the name of the turn here, which is bewildering, but that's neither here nor there. Now off into turn number 2. Now the opening series of corners here on this lap is slowly but surely end up building the momentum through the first 2 turns that are rather slow, then through 3 and 4. These quick left-handed sweepers, rather fast in these Spec Racer Fords, may be going to provide a good overtaking opportunity heading off into turn at number 5 on this lap. Now this turn can be very tricky, and it's super important as well as it heads on to this back straightaway, which also leads into one of the heaviest braking zones on this lap and one of the best overtaking opportunities as well. Joshua, we're going to try and do that here in this lap. Yeah, best name. We went through this. It's Dry Sack, turn number 6, which there's definitely a blue balls joke to be made there, but that's neither here nor there. Now, heading out of 6 into turn number 7, building momentum through the mid-sector. Braking already. 7, a bit more on the open end compared to 8, which can be a bit tighter. You gotta keep the momentum rolling through here. Oh boy, I'm stumbling over everything. Now it's a turn number 9 and 10.
Here we go. Going through turn 10 at the moment. We're getting into the Ayrton Senna chicane now. Gonna be going right and then left. Ron, you can expound on why you're not a huge fan of that chicane as he's gonna finish the lap here. Gonna be coming through Ferrari now. And then finally through Lorenzo. And this pit lane here is something else we're going to have to talk about. It looks extremely difficult, Ron. It's flat and skinny, and you've got to turn left pretty tight. You can see that pit lane entry there. That final name is called Lorenzo. Lorenzo goes around the outside the pit lane entry.
Yeah, that is a very interesting final corner in its own sense. Very similar to turn number 6, but actually a bit more on the open end. Can lead to some good side-by-side battling right at the very end. Oh, that is the hardest I've laughed on the air potentially in my entire career. I'm actually tearing up. That's absolutely fantastic. Now it's about a minute and a half left here in qualifying. Getting into crunch time with less than a lap's worth of time to go for these competitors. Going to start to see the quick times. Kane Halliburton jumps up to second. That's a 156.00088 for him, I should say. Behind the wheel, the number 12 car jumps in front of Nathaniel Schramm. There's Kane in that number 12 machine as he heads his way off through the mid-sector right now. And I think we'll get a good view of Scott Russell utilizing some of the draft from your current provisional pole sitter of Felix Samoas. Alexander Gorson sits atop of the pole in Spec 2 presently, with Rich Meesters top of the drivers in Masters presently. So still a lot up for grabs as we get to the end of this qualifying session. This is a rather long lap, despite being not the lengthiest racetrack in the world, only 2.75 miles. It's just so twisty and technical that the lap times are nearly 2 minutes long.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting here. It'd be interesting here to see what Jeff Jacobson can do. It's been a while since I've seen him really consistently running in the Weekend Warriors League, but he's been doing it here for the past couple of weeks. So maybe Jeff can get some time in and do what he's got to do right now on board with Jorgmani, not on board, but watching Jorgmani, who has he even set a lap yet? I don't think he has, Josh.
As I pick up a new name here.
Not Josh, I apologize. Yep, my bad. Yeah. I meant Ron. I definitely meant Ron.
You know, fun fact, actually, this is the first time I've said this on the air, and I feel like it is fitting for me to say it here on SMB instead of anything else. My mom nearly named me Justin, which would have made my broadcasting career even more difficult than it already is. Nathaniel Schramm currently holding on to that top spot here. About a little over a tenth of a second between himself and Felix Samoas on that front row presently. Gotta say, some very tight qualifying times up in the front with the top 3 covered by about a tenth and a half. Kind of breaks up a bit more as you get farther along, but it is still rather close here in this session with Dmitry Lukanov jumping up to the Spec 2 pole. Kane Halliburton jumping up to the overall pole. That's a 155.9, one of the first drivers in this field to break below that 156 bracket, and he does it in spectacular fashion with the checkered flag out.
Yeah, that was a perfect time to run that lap here. We still have a few drivers on their lap, Jason Green being one of them, Dmitry Lukinov as well. Jason Green looking here. I cannot see sectors on the timing chart. But I can see him down there, though. It doesn't look like he's going any quicker. So that just goes to show how good of a lap Kane Halliburton was able to put in. I mean, as these tires do warm up, these cars get a little bit quicker, but then they start to fall off. You know, fuel comes off as well. Cars get a bit lighter, which can have a bit of an aero effect. So very impressive by Kane Halliburton to do what he did there to take P1. Jason Green sitting back there in P5 looks like where he's going to stay. But remember what we said, or remember what I said, Ron, at the beginning of this broadcast. Watch for Dmitry Lukinov as Jason Green comes into the pits.
Yeah, and if I remember, specifically with Jason Green as well, he actually picked up some pit lane penalties one of the last times we were racing here in the Spec Racer Fords at this track. So that pit entry, as you mentioned a little bit earlier on, Adam, going to be a very tricky part of what is going to be a very tricky day behind the wheel for all of these competitors as we get to the end of this Metro Auto Rebuild Weekend Warriors Spec Racer Ford season. Only one race left to go, and that's going to be at Montreal next week, which is going to be another tough race. That was actually part of the Week 2 schedule for the officials, but because of our week off to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors, we decided to shift that a little bit farther along and make that the season finale here in this season. But as we get to the end of qualifying and switch our attention off into the race here in a few moments' time, we'll let you know that all throughout this season, we have had the privilege and honor of having these broadcasts made possible by Metro Auto Rebuild. When it comes to repairing your vehicle after an accident, you'll hear a lot of different terms thrown around, like aftermarket or reconditioned parts, blended within the panel, spot refinish, direct repair program. The list really goes on and on. Before you make any final decisions, though, ask the professionals at Metro Auto Rebuild for the true definition of those words. In most cases, they may not be the best thing for your car. If you want your vehicle restored using factory methods and specifications with OEM required tools and equipment, depend on the professionals at Metro Auto Rebuild. They'll give you honest answers about the repair process, your rights, and your responsibilities. You want someone who's there with you every single step of the way. They'll get you back on the road safely, timely, and with their guarantee that you will love their workmanship. Please let us answer any questions you have about the repair process. They're here to answer your questions about estimates, insurance company coordination, and billing, as well as rental car coordination too. Visit our website anytime at metroautorebuild.com. We'd like to thank Metro Auto Rebuild for sponsoring this season of Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors action. And now we can take a look at a rather stacked, it must be said, 31-car starting grid for this 10th race of this season. It's going to be Kane Halliburton starting from the pole. He'll be joined on the front row by Nathaniel Schramm. Those two have been rather familiar foes throughout this season. We'll have to see if they'll battle once again here under the Spanish sun at Jerez. It's going to be Felix Samoes, an Iberian racer, starting this race in third next to Kane Lasky in fourth. Jason Green will start in P5. Dmitry Lukinov, your Spec 2 pole sitter, will start this race in sixth. Martin Visser will be in seventh. Alexander Gorson in eighth. Dirk Braun will start this race in ninth, with Scott Russell completing your top 10.
Kevin Adrian going to be starting in 11th place, with Joshua Justice starting in 12th. Yanchi Lin 13th. Rich Meesters, the Canadian, the Masters pole sitter, even though he's in P14, way ahead of Chris Thorpe in 21st, Flavio Andalo in 15th, Juahua Wilkai in 16th position, Joachim Osbeck 17th, Phil Berry 18th, 19th is going to be Christoph Langendock, with Andre Svoboda rounding out your top 20.
And then looking through the rest of the field, we've got Chris Thorpe in 21st, Daniel Wood in 22nd, Steve Saunders and Andrew Love will be on row number 12 right behind them. Looking through the rest of the drivers that we have starting this race, it's Matt Thompson and Brad Cathcart alongside each other in 25th and 26th. Jeff Jacobson will start in 27th, with Marcel Gorson in 28th, Jim Brewster in 29th, Paul Jackson and Jurg Monty complete your 31-car starting grid. Monty all alone by himself on that back row.
Did I just see Marcel Gorson? Is that a new name? And is that that's got to be a relationship to Alexander Gorson? Obviously, same last name, same country as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking more and more about it, which is why you can smell the smoke. He has raced in this series before. He has raced in the Formula Fords at the very least. I believe he has run a couple of races here in the SRFs, but I do not know their relation. I believe they may be brothers, although that is unconfirmed and unconfirmed from me fully. But however, we have got ourselves a race to look forward to, and also a full pace lap. So we have a bit of time to settle into a groove, relax, and kind of think about what sort of drama these drivers have to worry about the most in this race.
Well, I mean, I think lap 1, turn 1 is always going to be a spot where there could be some contention. Maybe around here it might not be too bad because it is a heavy braking zone, but it's not super duper heavy. So hopefully all these drivers can get through there. Then Michelin, I think, really turn 2. I mean, all of these drivers, this looks like a pretty drafty track from what we were watching in qualifying. Definitely needed some slipstream to get some good times here. So you're really going to want to settle in and not show your cards too early. I don't know if that's going to be in all of these guys' best interest. Someone like Jorg Mani, who did not set a lap starting back there in P30, is not going to want to settle in and not show his cards. But when does Jorg Mani like to settle in? I think that guy just likes to drive. And he didn't want to be bored. Well, I don't think he's going to be bored this afternoon.
Yeah, he likes to just push it 10/10 all throughout. He doesn't want to lift off. He doesn't want to do fuel saving. We've heard that from him many, many times. So if there's anybody that's going to go for all-out glory in this race, give it to Jorg. That's going to be a good storyline to keep an eye on throughout this race as he looks to try and redeem himself after the comparative disappointment in the Formula Ford race and let it on a little bit earlier on. Somebody just got abducted by a UFO. I'm not sure who that was, but it looked rather abrupt as we see Kane Halliburton trying to intimidate the iRacing pace car, which is a impossible task considering that car is about as robotic as you can imagine. That Porsche pace car, I don't know, it looks goofy to me. It looks like a cartoon car.
It definitely does. And the one thing about the pace car is, it would be nice if sim drivers got angry, or whatever, and they were able to not take their frustration out on their other drivers, but just go knock the pace car off the track. You can't even do that. So iRacing, you need to get on that. You need to allow us to be able to smoke that pace car. Just saying. Yeah, you cannot intimidate it. You just drive right through it. He has nerves of steel, that pace car.
You know what I think they need to do? Either get in contact with the people at BeamNG Drive and add in realistic crash physics for the pace car so you can actively deform it if you're upset under yellow.
Yes.
Or maybe just model that car entirely out of clay so you can kind of mold the car like a giant race car shaped stress ball. That would maybe be a good idea. I think this is $1 million idea. I should probably trademark that, and if iRacing takes it, I will sue for millions. Just kidding. I'd like to keep my job. Ready to get things up and rolling here for the 10th race of the Metro Auto Rebuild Weekend Warriors season here at Jerez. Got 31 cars set to grab the green flag in a couple of moments time. A big stack up here as they go on that start-finish line, but the green flag flies and the drivers are on their way, and it's a pretty convincing start there from Kane Halliburton. Got to lead them comfortably as they head their way into turn number 1. Meanwhile, it has been a horrible start for Nathaniel Schramm. He dips down even more. He's wrecking up in the front. Nathaniel Schramm involved in the trouble. He's been punted into a spin, sent around, and he's been sent all the way to the back. Side-by-side racing still going on as they head their way off through turn number 2. But of all the starts Nathaniel Schramm could have had, that was about as bad as it possibly could have been.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and watch it there. Schramm didn't get a good start, and I believe JG2 not really forced it, but definitely went 3 wide into turn 1, and I said that was going to be a point of contention. I was wrong, as we've got the 13 car, Flavio Andallo, in the grass, 3 wide. It is anything but calm right now, Ron.
Oh, it is pure unbridled madness. So we've got that there on the racetrack. The red mist has descended early. That's a big lockup heading down into turn number 6, and that's going to be a big drop off there, I believe. Trying to figure out exactly who that was. Dropping down like a stone thrown into a pond. I think my live timing screen may be a little bit frozen here, so that may not be helping out my case. I believe that was Kevin Adrian. Actually, no, that's Martin Visser. My apologies. Right in front of Kevin Adrian. I was close, kind of, sort of, not really. Not an excuse for myself. Kane Halliburton holding on to the race lead still as they head their way off through 9 and 10 as we look at side-by-side racing between the number 99 and the 22 of Scott Russell and Joshua Justice. Looks like Russell was able to jump into that spot. Josh nearly won in the Ray Esports Turkey shoot just this past Wednesday here on SMB.
Oh, no.
Oh, contact made with Chihuahua, and that's Flavio Andallo right behind.
Yeah, Flavio Andallo definitely wanting to get some of those positions back that he lost. Just misjudged the braking of Joshua Wilkie. Ron, you cover XSLR. Oh, my God, what an absolute dive by Martin Visser.
Oh, and that was the send of a lifetime. Dirk Braun losing out on some time in some places. He dips down into ninth behind Yanshi Lin as they head their way down the start-finish straightaway into one at speed for the first time. Kane Halliburton still holding on to the race lead. Those two have just broken off and driven off into the sunset. 2.3 seconds the gap between themselves and Kane Lasky in third. We look at a battle here involving Christoph Langendong. That, I believe, is himself and Andres Svoboda. Here they go side by side a little bit farther behind, involving Daniel Wood and Chris Thorpe. That's a battle involving your P2 runner of the Masters Racers down in 20th. A little bit surprising to see the Masters Racers struggling here.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are. Again, keep an eye here on Jorg Money. That Masters driver is going to be one to keep an eye on throughout the field. He has gained a position at least. I did see some blinking from him, though, as well. So I don't know if that's completely remedied itself from the Formula Ford race. Let's hope it has. But yeah, I mean, Rich Meester's back there in P13. He has gained a position, so obviously not doing terrible, but still not gaining as much ground as you would think that you want to. Is there's just, I mean, it's just an absolute freaking mess back here, Ron. I mean, Brad Cathcart, Steve Saunders, Matt Thompson, Phil Berry, Daniel Wood, they're all so close together.
Yeah, everybody is packed in throughout this field outside of a couple of breakaways sprinkled throughout, the one between P2 and P3, which is now being held by Jason Green, and then everywhere else it is just a vacuum sealed pack of industrial shipped Spec Racer Fords. You love to see it indeed. Here's a moment that happened with Nathaniel Schramm, and I think he had some assistance in that. A little bit net code involved in that. It looked like, at least from that first angle, looked like Jason Green may have nudged or at least spooked Kane Lasky into having a moment and then running right into the side of Nathaniel Schramm. Very close quarter stuff as he tried to rejoin the racetrack. It sounded like Guido in the production truck sat on cold toilet seats.
Yeah, that was close, and I don't think I can fault any of those drivers. I mean, we saw the amount of space that they had in between each other during that exchange into turn one, but iRacing just said, nope, you guys, we think you guys are going to run into each other and your connections aren't good enough, so we're going to say you're running into each other, and that's unfortunate. Yeah,
quick little blink out of AirNet can really affect how your iRacing event goes as we take a look to see a moment here with Flavio Angelo contact with himself. I believe that was Joachim Osbeck who went down the inside of him as he rejoins the racetrack 3 wide nearly as they head their way off into turn number 5. You know, we've already seen many points of trouble for these competitors, and it seems like the fast, it's usually nothing corners in any sort of race car, but 3 and 4 right towards the start of this lap proved to be a bit of a trouble spot for these racers thus far.
Yeah, it has been. I mean, you wonder if, as well, it's just because of the proximity of all these drivers right now. As things start to spread out, you hope that things are going to get a bit better for them. And I am going to hold my tongue and not mention turn 6 because I had a joke that may or may not get us deleted off of YouTube. So I'm going to give it back to you, Ron.
I'm going to have to hear that joke once we're done with this broadcast. Maybe we could save it for XSLR tonight at Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park, ERP, as I like to call it. Rich Meester is holding on to P11, still your leader in the Masters category, has a comfortable margin between himself and Chris Thorpe, your P2 runner in that category. Want to keep tabs on this. Yerkmani has made up some spots, but it's not a lot. Only 3 spots gained since the drop of the green flag for the Swiss driver. We'll have to see what he can do throughout the rest of this race as we take a look at more replays of more drama going on out there, this time involving Dmitry Lukhanov as they head their way off through turn number 5. Did he run wide on exit? He did run wide on exit.
Yep. Yeah, that'll do it, but still everything looking okay now for now. Back to turn 1, bit of a dive there from Dirk Braun, I think, trying to get past Rich Meesters, but isn't able to make it happen. And then we've also got Meesters trying to track down Scott Russell again for that top 10. So we mentioned the Masters drivers not making moves. It looks like Meesters is trying to start to make them. And again, Ron, I'm wondering, we're seeing a lot of these packs break away, not a lot of passing going on. You wonder if this is just, we call it a DRS train. If anybody is a fan of open wheel driving, everyone's just kind of in the slipstream of another person and it's tough to make moves.
We do have DRS here in the Spec Racing Forwards. The acronym is just a little bit different. It just means draft really strong. We're going to ignore the grammar problem. The joke still stands. Nathaniel Schramm is looking to try and make his way up the running order, slotted now in 21st, is side by side with Phil Berry as they head their way off downtown into turn number 6. It looks like he's been able to jump into that spot. Look at Jason Green. He's just broken away from everything else. He was the kind of Pied Piper of that second pack. I think Kane Lasky may have been struck by a falling anvil. Let's take a look at here in the 09.
Yeah, Kane gets a bit defensive. That's never going to work, Kane. Gotta leave a bit more room there for the guy that's driving over the curb on the inside. But I am not one to pass judgment, even though I just did. Apologies on that one, Kane. But yeah, it's one of those things. Too wide, gotta leave room, or that's always going to happen. Is we've got the two blue cars going at it. One of those I know for a fact is Joshua Justice. He's in the 99 car, and then the 110 right in front of him. They are going to town, and it looks like the 110 has a bit of damage as well of Joachim Osbeck. They both got a bit of damage, it looks like. No, that's Joshua Justice with damage on the right front.
Yeah, it's now a battle of the Joshuas as they head their way side by side to turn number 1 between Wilkie and Justice. No. It looks like it goes away of Mr. Wilkie.
It's not a battle of the Joshuas. It's Joshua and Joshua. Yes, yeah, it is not a battle of the Joshuas. Joshua does make his move around Joshua, though, and gets himself another position here. Back into the Senna S's. Dirk Braun catches way too much curb. Has to try to save it. He gets on the brakes. No room for the driver behind, and unfortunate for Dirk.
Yeah, I think that was more so a driver catching too much of him than Braun catching too much of the curb. But either way, a slice it. The chicane bites and bites very hard. Sounds like a chicken. I think about it. That was a terrible.
That was horrible, Ron. Be better. Be better.
This is my best. Now look at that's a. That's a move for Daniel Wood. He runs wide off through turn number 6. He'll lose out on a couple of spots there. Matt Thompson is now right up in front of him, holding on to the final spot inside the top 20. Look at that. That's side-by-side racing right in front. I believe that's Chris Thorpe and Christoph Langenthong that are battling as they head their way off through turn number 8 and 9 with the side-by-side battling now going on with Chris Thorpe in that 912 car, holding on to second in the Masters category, looking to try and not get a bit out of him by the Cookie Monster machine of Phil Berry.
Yep, Phil Berry trying to do what he can do. Got a Carcax in chat saying too bad Schramm did a spin at the start. He is crawling back through, though, so people are watching Nathaniel Schramm. At least one person's watching Nathaniel Schramm's down 13 positions, but he's up into P15 right now, so doing okay. But again, back here to Martin Visser trying to hold off Dmitry Lukanov. Lukanov going to be going to the inside here. Makes the move.
So swapperoo going on there. Lukanov now going to have to worry about Martin Visser right in tow. Lots of the racers that you see in this field are actually part of the Almeida Racing Academy, a previous sponsor of the Formula Fords here on SMB. Running strong at the current moment. There is Visser holding on to P5 right behind your Spec 2 leader of Dmitry Lukanov, as he still has to worry about some other drivers in that class, as much as the wins have come rather easy for Dmitry Lukanov in the Formula Fords. Here in the Spec Racing Fords, that has been a bit more of an uphill climb.
It has, and right now what Lukanov is doing is everything he's got to do. The problem is, as we've talked about, points are paid out overall. We'll get to that here in just 1 second. What has happened here, Ron?
Oh, that's Steve Saunders off the track. He went off big time, and I believe Chris Thorpe and Phil Berry were involved in that incident too. Let's take a look at this. Heading down into turn number 5, side-by-side racing doesn't work through here. That was a punt if ever I've seen one, and then just stacking up huge as everything else went on.
Yeah, that was insane. You could see the start of that, but let's see if Phil Berry might have gotten through this. They're spinning in. No. Oh, yes, he does. What? Oh, no. I thought he got through it, Ron. Oh, no.
Oh, he was so close to getting fully through that incident, but he did not. That, I believe, I'm looking through, the main driver at the epicenter of all of that really caused that drama in the first place I believe that was a 303 of Steve Saunders. Yeah, so Saunders kind of kick-started that incident in the first place, punted that first car into a spin, and then as he was trying to get that car righted in the right direction, contact being made once more.
Yep, Salima here, Nathaniel Schramm, another Nathaniel Schramm. I forgot how many Nathaniel Schramms here, Nathaniel Schramm fans watch this race. Still sitting back there in P15. Guys, I don't think I got to tell you where he's sitting. I think y'all are just watching right now. So just keep me updated if you could, even though I'm the commentator on how Nathaniel Schramm's doing, and I'll just go ahead and shout it right back out to you guys. But back up here to Joshua Justice following Joahua Wilkie, and Wilkie still is trying now to make a movie, has caught Rich Meesters for P9.
I'm not sure how much I should add to this, because as much as Josh is not going to be upset at this, at least I very hope, I would quite like to be able to get paid. Joshua Justice now going to have a fantastic view of that side-by-side battling between Wilkie and Meesters. Meesters with some rather significant damage on the front end of that race car. That's the worry with these Spec Racer Fords. We usually talk about in reference to the draft-heavy tracks that we have certainly visited a lot of throughout the season, but it stands true for these more technical tracks as well. Any sort of front-end damage, and you're really going to have to worry about that straight-line speed, as Yanxi Lin has run into some difficulties. Do want to note as well, Dirk Braun has picked up a black flag, which if that's for instance points out, it's close to a speed run pace, as I think Yanxi just decided to call it a day.
Yeah, that's when you get stuck back there on an island, it's probably, you know, if you know you're not going to be moving forward, it's one of those things where it might just be best to go eat some lunch or some breakfast or some dinner, maybe have a drink, watch some football, American football, because that's the better of the footballs. Even though I've got an Italian running the cameras, please just keep running the cameras and don't argue with me, Guido, even though he's already starting to argue. Alexander Gorson, though, up here in P5, now right behind Dmitry Lukinov. I want to get back to this, Ron, real quick. Talking about the points, it's all overall points, right? So Dmitry right now is ahead of Alexander Gorson. So he is making more points than Alexander Gorson. The problem is he's only making one more point, I believe, than Alexander Gorson, because all of the finishing positions and the points are overall. It's not per class. So I know P1 makes a bit more than P2, and then at P3, and then I think it's just 1 point from there on back. So right now, Dmitry Lukinov really wants Alexander Gorson to stay in P5, while Dmitry gets up into P3 too, or, I mean, 1 if he can get there. But the other thing for Dmitry is just keep beating your rivals.
Yeah, that's pretty much what you got to do. I mean, as much as the mathematical equations go into everything and you got to work out the numbers, crunch the numbers, and do all that, there's a simple way to gain ground in a championship, and that is go out there and get some hardware. That is go out there and get some W's, and I think Dmitry Lukinov is looking to do that right now, but Alexander Gorson is looking to get that spot back as they nearly tussled with some side-by-side battling into turn number 9 through 10 right now, about to head their way off through the chicane. We've only seen one racer run into some trouble heading off through this chicane, which is a little bit surprising. That chicane is just so unbelievably awkward. I think the best way I could sum it up is look at the width of that section of track. It's not really, it's not a full one-to-one comparison. It is close. It's not like completely terrible, but you know, that's maybe it's just me. Maybe I have odd taste when it comes to chicanes.
Well, I mean, chicanes, as we're watching Steve Saunders, looks like he gets a bit wide on the curbing there. Is that the end of it, though? He now has a spin. It's unfortunate. He gets back going straight again. No harm, no foul. No cars coming. But yeah, so that chicane is weird. Now that I'm looking at it, Ron, and now that I've had a bit of time to kind of examine it, you're right. So not only is it, chicanes can be skinny, right? They can be skinny in width, but that's if the first left or the first right is not too far of a distance away from the second left or the second right. So it's actually a bit of a flowy chicane. This chicane does not look very flowy. It just seems clunky, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's got to be a way that chicane works out well. It needs to feel like no matter what kind of car you're in, it flows in from one part to the other. Here we go, side-by-side racing with Lukanov and Gorson. My, oh my, they nearly made contact about 5 times through that back straightaway. They keep it clean. They keep it green. They're running side-by-side once again on an exit of 6 into 7 right now. Lukanov able to hold on to that spot, but could have ended in tears very, very easily. But no, that chicane, just though it's so unnatural, it feels forced in a sense.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like it's a natural progression of things. Like, I mean, there are chicanes that are added in once a track is built. A lot of them, in fact, are added in once a track is built. But take a good one, for example, Road Atlanta. The Turn 10 chicane at Road Atlanta is one of my favorite chicanes in the world. It's a fantastic overtaking opportunity. It feels good. It feels rewarding. Some chicanes, you just leave them with like a strong frontal lobe migraine. As Kane Halliburton, yes, has come down pit lane.
Yeah, that's early too. Not even 20 minutes into this race, and it looks like Martin Visser's following him in as well. These are some early pit stops here. Kane Halliburton can afford to make that pit stop, though, because he's kind of out. He's probably going to be out in clear air. So, yeah, we'll see what happens here with Felix Samoas as well when he decides to make the stop. But he was already pretty doing okay with Felix Samoas. But right now, it's going to be interesting to see where Kane comes back out. If Felix now in clean air can get a few laps, an overcut might be possible. But real quick, before we start seeing more and more pit stops here, Ron, I'm going to start a chicane argument with you, and I'm going to ask you if you believe there are 3 chicanes that I think may be the best in racing. The first one, obviously Road Atlanta, like you mentioned. Then you've got the Spa bus stop chicane. Then you've also got Daytona chicane, and then Watkins Glen, the other bus stop chicane. Which one do you think is the best? I am going to argue with you and tell you that I think Watkins Glen is probably one of the better ones.
Ooh, that is good. Guido mentioning Maunz at turn number 1.
Oh, hell no. Guido, get the hell out of here with the turn 1 at Monza.
Yo, I gotta say, the first chicane at Monza is a lot better than the old first chicane that they had at Monza. Adam, have you ever seen the old first chicane they had at Monza? Imagine some of the chicanes they have on the Surfers Paradise Street Circuit that the V8 supercars race on, and yeah, it was back-to-back double chicanes with a curved braking zone off into it. That chicane was interesting, but the first chicane at Monza is still interesting to say a word that we cannot say on the air, because that chicane is the site of probably more homicides than the city of Philadelphia.
Oh, hang on. Real quick, Ron, I'm going to gloss right over that because we have a Nathaniel Schramm update. Nathaniel Schramm, guys, is up into P8. I'm definitely not the one that found that. I told the Nathaniel Schrammers over here in the commentaries on YouTube, they let us know. Yeah, so thank you guys. Nathaniel Schramm, the Schrammers. You guys now have a new name. The Schrammers here in the comment section of YouTube have just told us that Nathaniel Schramm up there into P8 and making some progress up to Rich Meesters as well. But there was another comment in the YouTube that mentioned the Laguna Seca chicane. I don't quite know it. It's cool to watch. It's not fun to drive. The corkscrew is not a very fun chicane, in my opinion.
Yeah, I honestly don't count that as a chicane. It is on paper, but in practice, it just feels an iconic turn. That's the way that I can sum it up as contact going on between Dmitry Lukanov and Alexander Gorson. This battle for third nearly comes to blows once again. These drivers really flying close to the sun in this battle for what is still going to be the Spec 2 lead as currently the final podium position. But from those chicanes that you mentioned, it's tricky because I feel like there's a different chicane for a different mood. It's like trying to pick a topping on a pizza. Sometimes you're feeling bacon, sometimes you're feeling pepperoni, other times you're feeling plain. Right now, I'm feeling a cutback move from Alexander Gorson on Dmitry Lukanov. That right there was a slick overtake, contact made on the exit. They're going to be side-by-side through the braking zone into the chicane, and he's going to be able to jump his way up into that spot, side-by-side racing through the chicane. That is not a recipe for success. No. Dmitry Lukanov knows that, and he's given that P3 to Gorson for now.
I don't think Gorson really enjoyed Lukinov coming into his left side when Gorson was on the inside there coming out of the right-hander. But Lukinov had to get back to the racetrack. And you could see that Gorson just absolutely squeezed him going into the next corner, gave him no room, may have actually turned the wheel left, but Lukinov had to get back on the racetrack sometime. So we're going to have to see the rest of this battle here. I think this one might heat up a bit, Ron.
Yeah, I think this battle is going to get really, really intense, as hearing as well that Nathaniel Schramm has been able to jump his way up into 7th now. So the Schrammers are happy that Nathaniel Schramm has been hammering his way up into a top spot after that mistake a little bit earlier on. See, that right there, I think, was maybe one of the worst puns that I've ever did, but at least I nailed the delivery, kind of, sort of, not really. Alexander Gorson still the lead of this trio, which is comprised entirely of Spec 2 racers. We haven't really talked about Kevin Adrian too much at the tail end of all this, but he is there, and there to battle.
I think you might be able to say he is Schrammering his way up through the field, but
I like that.
Man, that might. Thank you, Ron. Thank you. I'm glad you did. But
that is very nice.
Your puns are not the best either. So take it from one bad pun guy to another bad pun guy. You know what? I'll take the comment. Never mind. But back up here, Joao Wilkie is still sitting in P9. Rich Meesters, he's trying to track Rich Meesters down for P8. But after Schramm got past Meesters is really holding on to the back of him there. Meesters is holding his own there in the Masters class. But a driver that I've got to look at right now, Jorg Mani, up into P15. We haven't been paying attention. He's up 16 positions, Ron.
Yeah, talk about scything your way through the field. As much as he wasn't really making the moves early, been able to make the moves happen as of late, as Monty cutting his way through the field like nobody's business. Alexander Gorson now coming down pit lane, so we'll have to see what these two are going to do in one lap's time. I think we see this occasionally in the Spec Racer Fords, where everybody has a different philosophy in terms of what strategy to do. You see many different split strategies at a race here at Jerez. We're seeing that right now as Felix Maunz is still out there on the circuit, holding on to the race lead. I'm trying to think, where in the world is Kane Halliburton? I'm looking through, trying to figure out exactly where he ended up. P13, lucky number P13 for him right now. Just set the 5th lap of the race. So Runazal is going to mention what sort of lap times he's been setting. Goes purple. So as much as Felix Maunz is holding on to the race lead, I think Kane Halliburton has really got his work in.
Yeah, I think our producer Guido was on to something there. He trying to drop Felix Samoa, trying to drop him out of his slipstream. So what he has done is he's come in early to break that slipstream between himself and Felix. Now just sets the fastest lap of the race. And looking up here at Felix's last lap, a 156.6 compared to Kane's 156.1. That's 0.6 of a second. So if that keeps up, when Felix comes into the pits, Kane Halliburton should be well clear of that slipstream.
We've seen this happen with Kane Halliburton before. Comes in for that early stop. It works out fantastically for him. And he just drives away, drives off into the sunset. Kevin Adrian has been able to jump his way up into that top spot in the Spec 2 category over Dmitry Lukinov. We saw Alexander Gorson come down pit lane a few moments ago. His same namesake, Marcel Gorson, has picked up a black flag. So things not going well for them at the current moment. We'll have to see if that strategy call from Alexander a few moments ago will work out. Jason Green, the latest to come down pit lane. So, and he's going to be joined by Dmitry Lukinov. So 2 more drivers up towards the front of the field, breaking away. Once again, affirming what I said a little bit earlier on, saying that everybody is a little bit split as to what strategy is going to work here and which ones will not, as Meesters, Wilicki, and Ozbek all coming down pit lane.
That is now 3 different iterations of Chihuahua's name, so we're doing a great job here on Slow Motion Broadcasting this afternoon. Nathaniel Schramm, though, we're watching right now, sitting in P4, trying to catch Scott Russell in P3, but Nathaniel Schramm right now is on a absolute charge. Now, let's see when Nathaniel decides to pit, because you wonder how much of this is going to be undone with the drivers that have already been into the pits. But nonetheless, Nathaniel Schramm making moves, as is Jorg Mani, who right now is in pit lane. still in the pit lane. Jim Brewster on pit just comes it back into the pits. Jorgmani start moving him back up through Joachim Osbeck. He should be able to get past. No, Jorgmani, P17. Rich Meesters, though, P15. Jorgmani only 2 positions away now from the Masters lead.
If Jorgmani can go from starting this race all the way at the back to winning in the Masters category, that is going to be the comeback of a century. So we'll see if he can finally make it work. Again, Halliburton and Christoph Langendonk have just swapped spots a little bit farther up the road. Halliburton now holds on at 2P7 in this race. Got to keep tabs on how he's doing throughout.
Okay, Salima.
Oh, boy.
Yes, Salima in the chat saying, "Oh, Black Betty, Sharama Lamb." Love it. Absolutely love it. Salima in the chat right now. But watching Felix Samoa is now in the pits. See exactly how long this pit lane is. The Shram himself is going to have to pit sometime soon. Kevin Adrian into the pits as well. Scott Russell might be coming in now as well. Yep, and there's the Shrammer himself into the pits. Flavio Andalo, is he going to come? Oh, no, Russell.
Oh, and Russell going to come down pit lane anyway, so that will give him an unsafe pit entry. So that's going to take him out of contention there. He should have probably just stayed out there entirely. Just say, you know what, I'm not going to try and salvage this. I'm just going to stay out there. As there we see Felix Samoas jumping into that top spot. Flavio Andalo staying out for another lap. Halliburton sets the quick time and jumps in front of Felix Samoas, but it's not a 4 gap. I was expecting that to be a lot closer. Flavio Andalo just had a half spin. He nearly got clobbered by Justice. He stopped there. Oh no! Felix Samoa is piling in, and that's going to take him out of it.
Oh, no. Oh, let's watch to see what happens here. It looks like we do have Joshua Justice behind him. Gets a little bit loose, tries to recollect it, tires hot, loses it again. Halliburton almost collects him, and I just don't know if he knew Felix was that close. That is unfortunate for Felix Samoas.
Oh, that is probably the textbook definition of a falling anvil that I think I've seen in my entire broadcasting career. That is so unfortunate. Frankly, for the both of them, I mean, nothing intentional, obviously, for that. And I'm sure that Flavio Andalo didn't mean to even rejoin in the manner that he did, just didn't understand how close Felix Samoas was. Right as I was hyping it up, saying that Kane Halliburton had a challenger and there was a chance that we were going to be seeing a battle between those two at the very end, the commentator jinx coming down right away. We're going to take a look. I mean, Josh Justice has been able to jump into the race lead as a result of that spin from Flavio Andalo, but this is probably the biggest bit of, pardon the language, piss poor luck that I think I've seen in my entire life.
Well, here's something that I gotta say as well. So, as Kane Halliburton drives past Flavio Andalo, I wonder if Flavio thought that he was more in the way where he was, because Kane, if we could go on board with Kane maybe one more time, Kane got very, very close to Flavio. So I wonder if Flavio tried to hit the gas to get out of the way so Felix could take his line, because we'll have to see how close Kane got. I wonder if Flavio thought he was going to get hit if he didn't move. I don't think this was more of an unsafe rejoin as, oh shit, I just messed up. Oh crap, I need to get out of the way, right? And I don't know, what Flavio can do there. I mean, if I'm in Flavio's position, I don't know if I would have done anything different. You're always told to hold your brakes, but as close as Kane got to him, you wonder if he thought he was more in the way where he was.
Yeah, I gotta wonder if that was exactly what surrounded all that. Just an unfortunate series of events, though. Nothing intentional. That's just hard of the moment, hard of racing. You make those split-second decisions. Sometimes they go well, sometimes they go bad. Hearing that Jorgmani has run into difficulties, he's out of this race. Apparently, as contact nearly going on between Dmitry Lukanov and Martin Visser in the side-by-side battling, heading down into turn number 6. Alexander Gorson now battling with Visser as they had their side-by-side through 7. Visser able to hold on to that P4 spot for now. It looked like this Spec 2 battle was certainly going to be intense. We didn't expect it to be a battle for the final podium spot, but that's what it looks like it has now developed into.
Yeah, we're going to see what happens here to Jorg Monty here. Same issue, I believe, that Flavio had, maybe. So Jorg driving by himself here on the curbing, on the brakes. Probably going to lose the rear here. Yeah, there it goes, but that wasn't as bad as it could have been. Jorg Monty still driving straight, still has a chance here. With about 9 minutes left, though, I don't know if he really does have that much time. Look at the gap between himself now and Rich Meesters.
Yeah, this race has absolutely flown by now with 31, nearly 32 minutes on the board. So getting into crunch time for this race, probably only with about 4 laps left. So it was looking good for Monty to maybe have at least a chance of winning in that Masters category. I think that chance has more or less gone by. I will say this, Adam, and this is honest. When I was a young lad, so to speak, to invoke a little bit of British terminology for no obvious reason, when I appreciate Guido saying that I'm 21. I am not. I'm 20. Difference. I am soon to be 21 in about 3 weeks' time. But when I was a kid in elementary school and I first started to learn what swear words were, my dad understood me swearing because I would always say it in the right context. Adam, when you dropped the S-bomb a few moments ago, that was in the perfectly understandable context in which that should be said. So I do not fault you for saying that, although I will not repeat it myself.
Okay, good. Sis Boomba. Ron Sis Boomba.
Frick.
But back here to Dmitry Lukanov. Holding on now to P3 with that unfortunate incident with Felix Amos and Flavio Andolo. What that has done is promoted a Spec 2 driver into the overall podium. And what is that's doing right now is he's got Martin Visser between himself and Alexander Gorson. This is exactly what Dmitry wants, but Martin Visser is not going away.
Yeah, Martin Visser is there to fight. He wants to make it an all-Spec 1 overall podium here in this race at Jerez for round number 10 of this season. But you got Lukanov, you got Alexander Gorson, you got Kevin Adrian, drivers with varied experience here in these cars, varied seasons, and varied driving skills. You got Lukanov, who is kind of broken the elbows out a bit. This is a bit unnatural, for lack of a better term, to see how aggressive Dmitry
Lukanov going defensive.
Gorson has been too. Yeah, he goes for the defensive moves, tries to cover off the inside, side by side, into turn number 1 as Visser tries to sweep around the outside. He's got to be careful about going for these moves. If he makes one that is maybe a little bit more ill-advised, contact could, of course, go on. But even if he just loses out on some time, Alexander Gorson would be right there to pounce, and even Kevin Adrian would try and follow in suit.
Well, here's the thing with Lukanov right now. Lukanov is trying the best he can to keep a car in between himself and Gorson. Like, even if he does let Visser around, then Gorson's back in his slipstream, and we've seen how much of a slipstream matters here. So I do believe Lukanov has to be extremely defensive. And let me tell you what, Ron, driving defensive for 5 minutes, that is a big question. And can he get it done? I don't know. I don't think I could, because he has to be extremely defensive here. And what that's done now, as he goes defensive, Visser gets pushed out wide. Here comes Gorson around the outside.
Yeah, Visser hopped the berm a little bit as they headed their way off through turn number 6, got up into the marbles. He's still holding on to that P4 spot, but could very easily been him dropping down to 5th as Alexander Gorson was oh so close to get a move done. The one saving grace is the fact that trying to get a move done through turn number 7 is extremely difficult in these Spec Racer Fords. These are momentum-based cars. In terms of power-to-weight ratios, I don't have the exact numbers with me, although I probably should have those very soon. These cars are probably second only to the Formula V in terms of having the lowest power-to-weight ratio in the Weekend Warriors world. The Formula Ford cars, they have the get-up and ghost to just move away. Oh, man, that's a dive from Visser. He did this a little bit earlier on. He tries to do it again on Lukanov. It was oh so close to contact and oh so close to an overtake, as here comes Gorson now trying to look for it.
Yeah, now the problem is Visser has the slipstream. Gorson tried to get into that slipstream of Lukanov. By the time Visser came back onto the track, he pushed Gorson just a little bit off into the grass. That was a very late dive from Visser. That could have ended in absolute tears. They keep going, though, and now Dmitry knows that Visser is going to do everything in his power, so Dmitry's going to have to go even more defensive here with 4 minutes left.
That right there, the correct technical term is looking the stamp and sending it. That's exactly what Martin Visser tried to do there, heading off into the final corner. You can try and go for that. There's a little bit of banking to help you out through turn number 15 as well, so you can very easily go for a dive, but sometimes it could end in tears. Here we go, side by side battling down the back straightaway into turn number 6. Lukinov on the inside. That's Visser on the outside. Alexander Gorson is there to pick up the those drivers, comes up, blows, he gets a 2-for-1 deal. Talk about that, a Black Friday discount from Alexander Gorson. P3 for him, 2 spots in 1 shot. Holy cow.
Oh, another dive from Visser. No! There's the contact. Visser around Gorson is back into P3. Lukinov able to hold on to it though. He's got to get back up to Gorson with 3 minutes left. I saw that one coming. Nathaniel Schramm, the Schrammer himself, back up into P7. I haven't even looked at this. It doesn't matter what's going on with Nathaniel Schramm right now, because right now, Dmitry Lukinov is going to have to do everything he can to get back up into Alexander Gorson's slipstream. Nathaniel Schramm, though, trying to get around Martin Visser. Ron, I saw that coming. It was just an unbelievable late move. Visser tried a couple of them. That time it ended in tears.
Yeah, you could tell the tension was really starting to rise in that battle, and that's exactly what happened. That's the red mist descending on a driver. Going for a move off into turn number 8 just doesn't work. There wasn't really the space for that. Yes, there was the space geographically speaking to put that car there, but it was always going to disappear. There we can see it all started with Dmitry Lukinov having an inside lockup heading down to the turn. Gorson tries to cover off the lunge that Lukinov was maybe going to try and go for heading into turn number 7. If you can cover off that inside, you are golden through that turn. But yeah, that move was never going to fly. Even if that gap was still there, he was taking such a shallow approach. Heading off into turn number 8, he was going to drift out wide eventually. He was either going to spin himself or going to make side-to-side contact, or exactly what happened there. You know, in the meantime, as there's been pretty much a Mexican standoff and a shootout going on.
Lukinov back into Gorson's slipstream though, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We've got Chihuahua and Meesters are going to battle right now as well. It's all popping off, Ron. I'm sorry for the producers. There's another spin.
That's the thing. Schramm and Visser.
Was it Visser as well?
Yeah, they came to blows. Visser has a black flag. Schramm's around. Both of them ended up off the course. And let's see what happened here. Nathaniel Schramm looks for it on the outside. Keeps it a little bit shallow. They touch. They bang into the braking zone. Another lockup there. It just got ugly really quickly for Martin Visser's race. He was running strong, running smooth, but things have gone to pot for him. In the meantime, though, Kane Halliburton about to start the final lap of the race. The joke I was going to make is that as there's been a shootout for the third spot in this field, Kane Halliburton about to win this race by probably the biggest margin that I've seen in my entire time covering Weekend Warriors action.
Yeah, Kane Halliburton, it's all popping off behind him right now, but oh my God, Alexander Gorson thought he was clear of this freaking Dmitry Lukinov guy. He's back in it again. Now, Dmitry Lukinov was on the defense big time from Martin Visser. Now he is in Martin Visser's shoes. He almost tried to go for a dive. That could have been really, really bad. Dmitry thought better of it. Now they're going to keep going, Ron.
Yeah, they're going to battle once again. As much as I said that the red mist had really descended with Martin Visser, it's descended on Dmitry Lukinov too. This has been a Dmitry Lukinov that I don't think we've really seen before in his time in the Weekend Warriors world. He's been really, really aggressive throughout this race, and it may come out in this battle. Should we know Joahua Wilkie has come down pit lane. I believe that's a quick splash and dash for him. As here we go, side by side. Lukinov looks for it on the outside of Gorson. Side by side into turn number 6. Will that be a swap-a-roo? It will not. Lukinov still there, though. That's Gorson covering off the inside line as they head their way off into turn number 7, but Lukinov has a few more opportunities to try and go for it. Not going to do it into turn number 8. It ended in tears for Visser a few moments moment to go. Will he go for it into 9, 10, 11, 12? He's got it on the outside, side by side, into the braking zone. Saw this go on between these two a little bit earlier on, and contact happened then. Contact happened there once again, but a very, very light tap. Gorson holding on to that P3 spot for now. In the meantime, Kane Halliburton about to win this race by a country mile. He comes across the line to score another victory. In the meantime, though, I think Alexander Gorson has one more challenge that he may try and face from Dmitry Lukanov. Is Lukanov going to go for dive into the final turn? He's about 3.5 tenths of a second off. He goes deep into the braking zone, but just not close enough to make that move stick. Alexander Gorson looks like he will prevail in the battle of the century in the Spec 2 category. Alexander Gorson going to hold his own and walk away with not only the Spec 2 class win, but an overall podium in the process. Well done to those Spec 2 drivers, even if they tried to kill each other at some points in time.
Unbelievable racing between Lukanov and Gorson. It's just unfortunate what happened to Visser there. Lukanov, really, really great racecraft. They got into each other. A little bit of bumping, a little bit of banging. That's okay. Gorson and Dmitry, my hat's off to you two. Unbelievable racing there for the past few laps. Looking here at Jorg Mani, though, Rich Meesters does win the Masters class. Jorg Mani, he did good. He clawed himself up. He made 19 positions after that almost spin. Was not enough to get back up to Rich Meesters, which shows the pace of Rich Meesters. Jeff Jacobson, though, and Jawahua Wilkie. It looks like Jeff Jacobson is just going to get Jawahua as he has to come into the pit on the penultimate lap to get a bit more fuel. Jawahua, welcome, my friend. You are now the new owner of this nice, old at this point Thompson trophy, because so many people have been using it lately. Paul Jackson comes across the line in P22. Marcel Gorison, Alexander's brother, did not have a battle like Alexander did, comes home P23. Andrew Love and Saunders. It looks like Andrew Love's is just going to get the best of Steve Saunders coming across the line in P25.
Yeah, even some photo finishes a little bit farther behind. What an epic race, though. What a race that we had here at Jerez. It's not over yet.
We got the
Crash 'em Up Wreck Fest here. You can see them lined up, heading all through turn number 2 right now. I believe the spot in question will maybe be turn 6 at the end of the back straightaway. So that's the thing with these Spec Racer 4s, not a lot of power, so they need about 5 turns to try and build up the speed. I think that was Jeff Jacobson driving backwards. If you hear the unmistakable sound of metal exploding, that's probably why that happened. The back straightaway here at Jerez is usually actually the site of a big game of chicken. So I think we may have some racers going backwards, others driving the right way.
Oh no, he's out of fuel.
Maybe we're going to conga line. Here we go. Jason Green running out of gas, potentially pushing him along to his final destination, and it's finished because, much like those movies, is probably going to end in death.
There it is. There it is, and into the wall they go. Now, let's see if one of them can form a ramp and try to send someone over into the trees. If one of them can get turned around, is anybody going to be coming with a full head of steam here? I don't think so. There were a lot of people that got real, there it is, real close on fuel, though.
I don't know why I made a fart noise when I saw that car pile into that, but I did anyways. There's Dirk Braun. Oh,
into the trees.
God bless
into
America. Dirk Braun sends it.
Dirk Braun, man. Finally, we had a driver make it into the trees. R.I.P. Dirk. I will see you next week, though. This is only virtual. Thank God, because that looked aggressive, to say the least. But we should now have some results here in what was, I have to say, the best race that I've covered here. Maybe not the best, because it wasn't a battle for the lead. Just some absolute carnage out there, though. Not what we're watching right now. Kane Halliburton in P1. Jason Green promotes himself into P2 with that issue between Mr. Felix Samoas and Flavio Andalo, and I'm going to get to what was said in the chat here in just a bit. Alexander Gorson comes home P3, wins in Spec 2. Dmitry Lukanov, Kevin Adrian, all 3 podiums in Spec 2. Come home 3, 4, and 5 overall. Nathaniel Schramm, P6, P3, though, in Spec 1. Joshua Justice, Scott Russell in 7 and 8. Rich Meesters comes home with your Masters win. Joachim Osbeck, Christoph Langendock in 10th and 11th. Jorg Mani comes home P2 in Masters. Andrzej Svoboda in P13. Chris Thorpe, P14. Dirk Braun, Phil Berry, Brad Cathcart, Jeff Jacobson round out the top 18.
Yeah, then looking through the rest of the field, we've got Joahua Wilkie slotted in P19. Now, there is context surrounding that. Of course, Guido kind of applying some peer pressure to us to say that after Mr. Josh has mispronounced many times Guido's name on the other Formula V shows. This is probably a bad time to mention this, but Joshua Wilkie has a brilliant paint scheme made by TW3 Paints, and you can check those out if you want a similar looking car. See, if you want your paints taken care of out there on the racetrack, and contact with TW3. If you want your paint taken care of out there on the road, contact the professionals at Metro Auto Rebuild, the sponsor of this series. That right there is why they painted the big box with that very bad pronunciation. Jim Brewster going to finish this race in 20th with Daniel Wood in 21st, Paul Jackson in 22nd, Marcel Gorson in 23rd, Andrew Love finishes in 24th with Steve Saunders in 25th, Matt Thompson in 26th, Martin Visser in 27th, Flavio Angelo in P28, Felix Samoza right behind him. 9th. Yanshi Lin in 30th with Kane Lasky being the last driver classified here in this race. Many of the racers you saw at the tail end of the field ran into some trouble early. So that rounds out your field here in round number 10 of the Metro Auto Rebuild Weekend Warriors season. If you have enjoyed this festive show here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, how about you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. But Adam, it looks like we have Rich Meesters up there in the interview waiting area, so I'll pass the mic off to you to have a chat with him.
All right, Mr. Rich Meesters, congratulations. First of all, Masters win. It looked, I'm going to put quotations around this, even though you can't see me putting quotations around it, Rich. It looked easy out there in the Masters class, but that you had some serious battles. The slipstream nature of this track kept you in close. You gained 5 positions. There was a driver, though, by the name of Jorg Mani, started from the back, and at one point, he was 1 car behind you. Did you ever feel the pressure?
I did. I felt it a bit. I saw him there, and, I knew he was coming, so I had to be concerned about that, but I was glad he was far enough back that I was able to hold it.
Yeah, you absolutely were able to hold on to it. But Rich, I mean, kind of walk us through the race, man. We talked about, like, it looked pretty difficult. Overtaking maneuvers. We mentioned a DRS train, which I'm sure you know what F1 is, drag reduction system. Ron, what was what did you call DRS again? Draft really strong.
Draft really strong, yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
draft
for sure.
Really
the draft
strong.
the draft was quite strong around, particularly down the back straight, and you just had to kind of hang in there. And there were a couple of times just strategically I wanted to lift rather than try to jump people. And, a couple of times where I was able to take advantage of it as well.
Well, you did take advantage of it. Pit strategy, were you just did you know what you were going to do when you started the race, or was it just all these guys are going in, I might as well go in too?
No, I was pretty much where I needed to be to go in, low on fuel. I was pretty much, I couldn't do another lap. So I was at my point where I had to be in the pits. Had a little bit of front end damage from a little incident in the chicane, but it wasn't costing me too much. So I didn't really have to worry about it.
Well, I'm glad you didn't, and I'm glad you didn't have to worry about Jorg there at the end. We finally got a new Masters winner in here that I can interview this week. We have Winton Motor Speedway coming up next week. Have you run Winton?
Not in this car, I don't think. I ran it in the M2, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Well, Rich, congratulations, man, on your Masters win. P9 gained 5 positions. It was just an all-around good day for you, Rich. Anybody you want to thank or shout out before I let you go?
Thanks to the guys at Alameda Racing Academy and the coaches like Kane for, the education and learning that's got me fast in this car. And all in all, thanks to you guys for broadcasting and to the Weekend Warriors guys for just putting it on.
Well, thank you so much, Rich. I hope to be talking to you again soon. That was Rich Meesters there, and I'm gonna there are so many different channels now. Chihuahua, you're making so many channels. But anyways, real quick before I hand it off to you, Ron, in the chat here, this is the definition of racing hard, making mistakes, and just forgetting about it. Obviously, we had Felix Moaz and Flavio Andalo with probably the biggest wreck of the day, took Felix out of contention. Felix and Flavio feels bad about it, but Felix comes in. That is how things are supposed to happen. Didn't come into the chat all mad. It was just unbelievable the way to see the interaction. I didn't bring it up, but I am now bringing it up. Congratulations to Flavio Andalo and Felix. Flavio may not have been the best rejoin I've ever seen, but between Felix and yourself, you get the gold star for how to conduct yourselves after the incident.
Yeah, I saw that a little bit earlier on in this broadcast, and that's one thing that I love about the Weekend Warriors, among many things, the community that we've got. Everybody races each other respectfully, as clean as can be. Of course, it is racing. Stuff does happen, but when it does, we're not going to throw stones at one another. We're not going to say, oh my God, oh, this happened, that happened. I have the worst luck in the world. Everybody sucks. You move on. Yeah, you have a great race, and those are two fantastic drivers. Contend up at the front so often. You absolutely love to see it. And I gotta say, from a personal note as well, only in the Weekend Warriors can I come here and make even insinuate some of the jokes that I've made on the air today and be able to have a good time. We love covering the Weekend Warriors here on SMB. And Adam, it's been great to have you back in the booth here once again. Been a little while since we were in the booth together commentating. But man, it's always so much fun. That was probably some of the hardest I've laughed in a while, man. Final thoughts before we wrap things up.
Well, I don't know. I watched that XSLR broadcast back, and I'm pretty sure yourself and the dry Thompson were having a blast in wherever we were last week. I already forgot where we were, but it's Sonoma, excuse me. But you guys are having an absolute blast with that one. It's just good to see here at SMB how much fun everyone has together. I will say, Charles is better, Ron. Just kidding. Maybe. You'll have to think about it. But no, the race overall was really, really good. It was better than I thought it was going to be. Obviously, any track that allows slipstreaming, there's always going to be close battles. There were a few questionable moves, I might say, that happened. But the race went on, and the battling was great. Alexander Gorson, Dmitry Lukinov, massive shout out to you guys for the end of the race. The wheel-to-wheel, the bit of argy-bargy, another British term, Ron. It was really, really good.
I think the last British word I learned like that was tea. So the more you know, I guess, here on SMB. Hey, that's another rhyme. There we go. On a roll with the rhymes here today. But yeah, we got a lot of stuff to look forward to here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Of course, later on, we've got another race for XSLR running at Indianapolis Raceway Park for round number 11 of the XSLR season. Already getting into the double digits for that championship. Have only 9 races left to go. So you may want to tune into that because that's going to be a heck of a lot of fun. And then, of course, this week we have got you covered with some Sim Racers Group action from Barber Motorsports Park for the Formula 4s. After that, we have got Ferrari Road and Oval Challenge action at Okayama with F3s running at the same track as well. The Formula Vs will be at Brands Hatch in 1 week's time on Saturday, December the 6th, with the Formula 4s at Watkins Glen and the Spec Racer 4s running at Winton for the season finale. Getting into season finale week here on SMB, going to be crowning some rightful champions once we get everything taken care of here in about 1 week's time. But as for this broadcast here today, for round number 10 of the Metro Auto Rebuild Weekend Warriors season here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, that will just about do it. Man, that track map looks so funky with that chicane. It's like someone
What'd you just say?
Bite out of this track. It looks so funky.
Okay, just making sure that's
funky.
What I thought.
Yes, there we go. True professionalism here. That's why they pay me the big bucks. But for myself, Ron Maunz, Adam Thompson joining me in the commentary booth, and Guido Marzucchi doing a wonderful job working on the cameras and the graphics and the virtual Marzucchi working on the cameras and the graphics and the virtual production hauler. I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.